Hello and welcome to News Round, where we do your recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Coming up, President Bola Tinubu holds maiden presidential media chat, says he has no regrets removing fuel subsidy in spite of its attendant effects on the cost of living. And it's a dark Christmas in Sokoto as a fighter jet bombs 2 communities in Islami local government area, leaving 10 villagers dead. Human rights lawyer and activist Dele Farotimi regains freedom after meeting bail conditions. Plus, 192 lawmakers vote to impeach South Korea's acting president, Han Duck-soo. And to begin News Round, President Bola Tinubu says individuals and corporate organizations must devise a better way of giving out palliatives to the less privileged in society to avoid tragic incidents that characterize such distributions in recent times. The president made the remark in Lagos during his first media chat since assuming office, where he sat down with a group of journalists, including Channels Television's Malkwe Ogun-Yusuf, to address a wide range of subjects affecting the polity. According to the president, charitable events are not peculiar to developing countries, but the difference with what obtains in developed countries is the process of giving out palliatives. The president was speaking against the backdrop of the recent stampedes recorded during the distribution of food items in different parts of the country, which led to the death of over 60 persons.
It's very sad that people are not well organized. We just have to be more disciplined in our society. Okay. Condolences to those who lost the family members. But it is good to give. Every society, even in America, they have food banks. They have hungry people. In Britain, they have food bank. They have warehouses. They are organized. They take tokens to be in line and take turns to collect. It's unfortunate. We just have to. It's a reflection in our bus stops where we don't even want to be on queue before we rush into the vehicle. It is very sad, but we continue to learn from our mistakes. To me, I see this as a very grave error on the part of the organizers. But things are improving. It doesn't kill our happiness for this season. It should be. We should just get on with it.
The president says he has no regrets removing fuel subsidy in spite of the attendant effects on the cost of living of citizens. Reacting to a question by Malkwe Ogun-Yusuf, the president says leaving the subsidy could have been tantamount to postponing the evil day as the country was running out of revenue to sustain the subsidy regime.
I don't want to question people with 5 limousine type of vehicles on the roads. Well, we should teach management with all our programs. We have to manage our resources within our means. There's no way out that you give out fuel and allow all the entire neighboring countries as Father Christmas. I don't have any regret whatsoever removing the subsidy. It is necessary. We cannot spend our future generations' investment upfront
But do you think it should have been phased, done in bits?
It is part of the fear that is unnecessary. Phased, no matter how you cut it or you slice it in segments, you still have to meet the bills. So, cut your coat strictly to your size. It's what we must manage. Management is the issue. And we have no choice but to pull the handbrake. Otherwise, we are headed for slippery slopes.
And after the Yuletide celebrations, Christians around the world celebrated the birth of Jesus Christ on Wednesday. Celebration is usually characterized by fun activities and spending time with family. So we see it always begins with the church services, Christian clerics in the federal capital territory asking the federal government and political leaders to emulate the attitude of Jesus Christ, who preached love and compassion to all and stopped self-service. The religious leaders were speaking during the Christmas services across various denominations in the nation's capital.
It's Christmas Day and worshippers at the Cathedral Church of the Advent Anglican Communion are in a joyous mood. They sang and danced.
Luke chapter 2.
In his message, the primate of the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Henry Undukuba, urges worshippers to show love to one another in spite of religious or political leanings, which is the central theme for the Yuletide.
We are trusting God that though there may be a season of the night and darkness, joy, gladness, and celebration shall surely come in the morning. Even in the situation in our nation, Nigeria, we are trusting God that no matter how imperfect the administration of His Excellency Tinubu may be, we want to plead with all Nigerians to join hands. Let us own this country. Let us work together. We have no other home, no other place, no other country than this country.
At Our Lady Queen of Nigeria Catholic Pro Cathedral, the worshippers sang hymn and praises to God. In his message, the Archbishop Ignatius Kaigama urged the congregation to remain steadfast despite the harsh economic realities.
The birth of Jesus is a reminder that there is still hope. There is still hope that we shouldn't give up no matter the situation of life. We shouldn't yield to frustration. We shouldn't yield to desperation. We shouldn't yield to any thoughts that will appear to say there is no God.
He also weighed in on the recent stampede at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church, Maitama.
After it had happened, my priest was taken away to be interrogated. The officials of St. Vincent de Paul, who sacrificed so much, they were also taken away and detained. This is unacceptable. Rather, there should be some sympathy, some understanding that we can work together to bring succor to these hungry and needy people.
He urged the congregation to remain steadfast despite the harsh economic realities.
And it was a dark Christmas for residents of Gidambisa village in Salame local government area of Sokoto state, where at least 10 persons were killed in a military airstrike while pursuing bandits. According to the chairman of the area, Abubakar Gitarana, the incident occurred at about 6 a.m. when 2 military fighter jets erroneously dropped bombs in a village, leaving 10 villagers and many livestock dead. Here's a timeline of what's happened.
This is what is left of Gidam Bisa village of Silame local government area of Sokoto state. In the early hours of Wednesday, Christmas Day, residents woke up to an unfortunate incident that claimed the lives of 10 villagers. What happened? According to the chairman of the area, 2 military fighter jets erroneously dropped bombs on the village while pursuing bandits like the Lakrawa terrorist organization. Governor Ahmed Aliyu, in the company of APC leaders in the state and the Minister of Labour and Employment, Muhammadu Dingyadi, visit the community for the funeral prayers for the deceased. Governor Aliyu promised a thorough investigation would be conducted to find out what led to the avoidable mistake so as to guard against its reoccurrence.
On behalf of government, I'm here to express my deepest condolences to the families and loved ones of the victims of this very tragic incident. As a government, one will take the full responsibility of those in the hospital. The medical bill. Yeah. And secondly, the government and relevant agencies, I think, have to sit down to conduct a thorough investigation on the incident so that we can prevent at least the future occurrence of such.
Meanwhile, the Chief of Defense Staff has insisted that there is no mistake in the military airstrikes targeted at the members of the Lakrawa terrorist group. He, however, states that investigation will be launched into the incident.
The incident that happened yesterday were things, it was an operation we conducted, we followed up and ensured that we avoided mistakes as much as possible. If there were other mistakes that came up, we're going to investigate and see. But I can tell you from what we have seen, because we have the videos, the BDAs of everything that happened, there were criminals in that place. Anybody that toyed with them was part of them.
But the defense headquarters has blamed the incident on secondary explosion. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, says the military acted with precision to neutralize members of the Lakrawa terrorist group hibernating in Gidansama and Rumutuwa community.
The ground forces also confirmed that the airstrikes achieved its primary objective of neutralizing the Lakrawa terrorist group's hideouts. The destruction of the key infrastructure of the terrorist groups was also confirmed, as well as the effectiveness of the strike was confirmed by the ground forces that were on site. Surviving Lakrawa terrorist groups, combatants fled the area immediately after the strike, particularly as they had better knowledge or familiarity of the terrain. Others among them were neutralized.
In spite of the defense headquarters' claim, Amnesty International and several other groups have called for an independent investigation into the death of the villagers.
And when Newsround returns, South Korea Parliament impeaches acting President Dok Soo. Details after the break. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Well, to other top stories from the week, human rights lawyer and activist Dele Farotimi has been released from the Ekiti State Correctional Center after fulfilling his bail conditions. Mr. Farotimi regained his freedom on Tuesday following a ruling by a magistrate court in Ado-Ekiti last Friday, which granted him bail of 30 million naira, with 2 shorties, one of whom must have landed property within the jurisdiction of the court. He was also required to submit his international passport to the court and refrain from granting media interviews while the case is ongoing. The police had accused Mr. Farotimi of criminally defaming senior advocate of Nigeria, Afe Babalola, in his book, Nigeria and Its Criminal Justice System. But Mr. Farotimi pleaded not guilty to all charges. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has raised alarm over increasing rates of infections and deaths from Lassa fever in the last 4 weeks. The Director General of the agency, Dr. Jide Idris, made a disclosure during a media briefing on Lassa fever outbreak, preparedness and response efforts by the center. According to Dr. Idris, the case fatality rate consistently remained high by over 13%, with most cases emerging from endemic areas like Bauchi, Ondo, Taraba, Ebonyi, and Enugu states.
The Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, Dr. Jide Idris, is hosting this last press briefing for the year to highlight the proactive measures taken by the agency in a bid to address the severity of the Lassa fever outbreak in the country.
What we are told literally is that
he explains efforts to increase the number of labs for testing and the establishment of an emergency operations center.
out of those laboratories, 9 of them were built up again to be able to test for Lassa fever. Lassa fever is characterized under viral hemorrhagic fevers. They are high consequence pathogens. And when you build laboratories for that, it's not just, you don't have the expertise in all of them. And that's why, again, we actually strategize to see how we can increase cover nationwide to empower those laboratories, especially closest to those hotspots and different regions, so that at least each zone, we have the capabilities. If a state covers Lassa fever and they don't have those laboratories that can test properly for Lassa fever, they just take samples and send to those laboratories nearest them. The idea now is to reduce the number of traveling, and that's why increasing the optimization processing for some of these laboratories to be also able to test for Lassa fever.
Responding to questions on antimicrobial resistance, particularly for ribavirin, the medication for Lassa fever, Dr. Idris highlighted plans to address the challenge. He also called for behavioral change amongst Nigerians to curb the spread of the disease.
Ribavirin is still effective in treating Lassa fever. Now, I'm not going to say that. Depends on how these things are brought in. We try to ensure that most of these that are coming are not fake. And that's again, like rightly said again, research is going on that we are heading here. There's a task force on Lassa fever vaccine development. Antimicrobial resistance is a huge problem in this country. So that's the next one we are going to start addressing. We have our own plans, antimicrobial, addressing antimicrobials. We have our own structure. We've attended global whatever it is, both in hunger and that kind of thing. Now, the next step is now implementation. Implementation has started, but it's going to go into increased gear from next year.
So far, the center has recorded 9,492 suspected cases, 1,154 confirmed cases, and 190 deaths from the disease in 2024. Victoria Longjohn, Channels Television News.
And protests rocked the University of Abuja over the selection process for the institution's substantive vice-chancellor. Some members of the selection council are alleging a plot to circumvent due process and impose a vice-chancellor on the university. Things, however, took a different turn when the channel's television crew covering the protests were manhandled by the school security operatives.
A crowd of professors and members of the Senate elected into the council for the recruitment of a substantive vice-chancellor for the University of Abuja gather in front of the university library to protest an alleged hijack of the process.
The chairman of council in cohort with some other members of high-ranking members of the ministry are planning to make sure that the rule is not played. Now, the chairman of council refused anybody to go on holiday. He made the process of selecting the vice chancellor, both they are sitting on Sunday, and they have suppressed the function of the selection board, which is very vital. He made it sure that council is the one doing everything. They are the appointer, they are the interviewer, they are the everything. And he wants to do it within days so that they will announce a supposed candidate.
A total of 87 professors have applied for the vice-chancellorship position. However, these protesting members of the selection council say they were excluded from the process of shortlisting candidates.
There is a map-up of activities for the announcement of the Vice Chancellor to be done on the 30th of December this month, in 6 days' time. How would you announce Vice Chancellor on the 30th when the board that's supposed to interview them was inaugurated on the 23rd, yesterday? Those people who made it so your short list, you say we will work with, you have not even informed them that they were considered. You have not invited anybody to interview. It means there will not be interview. So we said, please, I mentioned it there. I'm not to vote, but I told them I have a stake here. I have been a professor for 16 years. I cannot fool myself here.
Members of the council also make a demand.
Our immediate demand is to allow us carry out the responsibility, the tasks given to us, one, by University of Abuja laws, because he said selection board, stipulated, outlined the functions of selection board.
This school is going into serious chaos. We are using this opportunity to call the minister. They are using his name wrongly. The way he saved Oka, he should save University of Abuja at the center of I'm emotional, at the center of the governing. What they are doing is dirty, is unknown.
The spokesperson of the university, Mr. Habib Yakub, was not available to speak on the issue, promising to get back to Channels Television.
Keep vandalizing it. I don't even have phone. I don't have my camera. You are vandalizing my car. No, this is my phone.
Meanwhile, the Channels Television crew were attacked at the university exit gate, where security operatives, supervised by the institution's chief security officer, one Mr. Ibrahim Borga.
Thank you, vandalizing it. Vandalizing.
Wait now, what's the problem?
Aside from detaining the crew, their phones and equipment were seized and the channel's vehicle vandalized. The crew were later released after over an hour. Professor Aisha Mekudi was appointed as the acting Vice-Chancellor of the University of Abuja in June this year, at the expiration of the tenure of Professor Abdul Rashid Naala.
Now we end news round in South Korea, where the parliament voted to impeach its acting president, Han Duck-soo. The motion, led by opposition parties, saw 192 of the 300 votes amid rowdy scenes by ruling Power Party members who surrounded the Speaker's podium while chanting that the vote was invalid and that the parliament had committed tyranny. This comes just 2 weeks after Parliament voted to impeach its president, Yoon Suk-yeol, over a botched martial law declaration on December 3rd, which sparked mass protests. The impeachment of Mr. Han also comes following his decision not to appoint 3 justices to the Constitutional Court bench, which is currently reviewing President Yoon's impeachment case. Mr. Han, who was the Prime Minister at the time, took over by Mr. Yoon after he was stripped of his powers as president. Former acting President Han was supposed to lead the country out of its political turmoil, but opposition MPS argued that he was refusing demands to complete Yoon's impeachment process. And those were the top stories for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.